Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast and another segment of 20 Random Questions. I'm your host, John the Truth Dioria, and tonight's guest has got a unique title. He holds the title as the most experienced American in bare knuckle boxing. Professional bare knuckle boxer, Josh the Hammer Burns. How you doing today, Josh?
What's going on, brother? Doing well.
So before we get to these 20 random questions, I know you don't know your opponent yet. We were just talking about it. We just want to put it out there so the fans can be looking out for it. You have a fight coming up probably in January, right?
That is correct. I'll be fighting in January for BYD.
All right. So anybody that likes to follow Josh's career or BKB, check his social media. He's on Instagram a lot. Look for the information on there and definitely tune in whenever you can. So you ready for these random 20 questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Question 1. Tell me about your background and your upbringing a little bit. Not your fighting experience or anything like that. Just kind of where you're from, your siblings, where you kind of grew up, how you grew up, things like that.
So growing up, I actually was born in Ohio, moved out to Southern California, lived out there until about my freshman year in high school, came back to Ohio, and that's where I competed in football, wrestling. Grew up on a farm in Ohio until I graduated. Went to Ohio State, and the rest is history.
Yeah, you look like you've been throwing some hails. I can't even say it. So.
Bales of hay.
Bales of hay. Thank you.
Yeah. Our farm we had a lot of hogs, so we had a lot of head of hog, and so did a lot of wrestling with hogs during the winter and stuff. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Okay, nice. All right, question 2. How did you get involved in MMA and bare knuckle boxing?
Well, I've boxed since I was about 5 years old, and I had moved up to Detroit, Michigan to actually continue my professional boxing career, or to have a professional boxing career, I should say. And Manny Stewart, who's passed at the time when I was sparring, just said, look, he goes, you got to stick to MMA because the Tyson era is over. I'm only 6 foot tall. And most guys I'm sparring with are 6'5", 6'6", and their whole point is to keep you away. And, if I got inside, I could hurt people, but I was really at a disadvantage. So went back down to Mark Coleman with Hammer House there at Ohio State, and just went with Hammer House and went into MMA. And we actually signed with UFC first, and we were going to fight Gabriel Gonzaga. Gonzaga broke his hand. They basically were going to put us on the shelf for a year, but we were able to get out of the contract and sign with Bellator, and off to the races we went.
And then when did you decide to join bare knuckle boxing?
Oh gosh, I can't give you the year. I can't remember the exact year, but I was in a transitional period. Obviously, with Bellator, I had one more fight with Bellator, and a buddy of mine named Shannon Rich, and Shannon hit me up, and Shannon does a lot of bare knuckle stuff, and it wasn't legal in the United States. And Dave Feldman had already signed me because he said, we thought we was going to get up and running at the time, but he just kept running into roadblocks. So we decided to take a chance and dip our toe in the European bare knuckle scene, and got a lot of great experience from that, and met a lot of great people. And basically, to be honest, I fell in love with bare knuckle boxing more than I did any other combat sport. I love boxing, but the fact that bare knuckle just really shows whether you have the heart. You can't teach it. You either got it, you're born with it, or you're not. And bare knuckle brings that out in you immediately. So fell in love with it, and from there we took off. Like I said, took off running.
Okay, now you just brought up Emmanuel Stewart, so I'm going to be bringing him up in a minute because I know a lot of fans probably didn't even know that you had a connection with him. But question 3: what are some of the differences fighting overseas in bare knuckle boxing versus over here in the U.S. that some fans might not be aware of?
So in Europe, it's more Victorian style, which is stand up proper, fist to cuff, and there is no grappling, there is no clinch, there is no dirty boxing. It's very frowned upon over there. So you either stand and fight properly like a man, or you don't. That's how they represent it. Here in America, Dave Feldman, BYB, they allow you to clench, dirty box, pull heads down. It's more of a street fight, standing street fight with no kicks and no elbows. So it's much more physical in the United States, where it's much more proper boxing in the UK.
Okay. Question 4. Now, some other fans might not know this as well, so I'm just willing to talk about as much as you're willing to talk about it. I know you served our country. Thank you very much for doing that. And can you talk to me about your service at all?
I was a military police officer in the 95th Battalion, and it was an experience. My father was a 82nd Airborne Ranger. Obviously, I didn't want to go special forces like he did. I'm not jumping out of the plane. Just not happening. I'm afraid of heights. So I decided to go the route of a military police officer, and I thought that I was going to go be a police officer after and transition right into it. And obviously that didn't happen. And I got an opportunity to continue my fighting career. And at that point, it was, I can use my education and use, everything that I have when I get older. But you have a window of physicality that's a very short period of time. So I'm very blessed. I'm 45 and I'm still fighting, at the highest level, which I'm very thankful for that. But it's still short window when you comparative wise. So I can always go back and do anything else I want, but that physicality window closes quite quickly. So we decided to make that turn and just go down the fight career.
So now, what branch did you serve in, and how many years did you serve?
I was in the Army, and it was Army, and I believe I was in there for 12 years, and I was a no good, as they call it. A no good is a National Guard. So a lot of crazy stuff went on when I was a kid. So had scholarships and wasn't able to follow through with those because of irresponsibility on my part with my girlfriend at the time. So got a kid, and I come from an old school family, so I wasn't going nowhere. So I wasn't leaving the state on a scholarship. I was going to stick home. That's how I ended up going to Ohio State and staying home. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Question 5. So what is your connection to the legendary boxing trainer Manuel Stewart and the Kronk Gym?
So I moved up there. Gosh, like I said, I'm not gonna remember the dates. If I say it, I'm probably gonna be wrong. But in the early 2000s, and moved up here to follow my boxing career. Went to the original Kronk down in the rec center. Then I went to Kronk that was above Gold's gym. Trained with Manny, Shug, Angel, Bob. Anyone that's from Kronk knows who these guys are. And obviously, I was not a pro fighter, so Manny was more of an overseer. Would just put his chime in here and there. Obviously, pretty much besides Andy Lee was the only white guy in there, and then obviously the Klitschko's came, but obviously they're foreign. So, but Andy Lee, myself, and so obviously stuck out a little bit. So I got picked on and played with a lot, but yeah, it was good times, and he gave good direction. And I trained with Bob and Angel the most, as we were coming up, and that's when Manny was just like, "Look, you got to go back to MMA. You got to stick to your wrestling group, roots, because you're gonna have to get a guy close. You got to pull him in." So, and that was after I was sparring with Julius Long. Julius Long's like 7'2", great guy, super talented fighter, and Julius, he's 7'2". I almost spin and fall on the ground trying to hit him in the head. So I would just grab him by the waist, and most of those guys are not. They're strong, but they're not used to like grappling per se. And, grab by the waist, throw him in the corner, and then rough him up. And boy, he would be all over me about that. You can't touch him. Obviously I'm not gonna say what he said, but clearly I wasn't allowed to grab and touch and throw around. So,
well, you can't say what he said. You can swear on here, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just pretty much. I was a jive motherfucker for grabbing people and stop grabbing his fighters and things of that nature. So yeah.
All right. Question 6. Do you have any hobbies outside of bare knuckle boxing?
Nah. Well, I guess I'm a gamer. I'm a big nerd, and I love college football. So those are two things that I pretty much occupied my time with when I'm not training or in the ring.
Okay. Question 7. What is something that your boxing fans don't know about you?
Oh gosh. That's what we just talked about. That I'm a big fucking nerd, and I build computers, play video games, and I'm kind of a hermit. I'm an extrovert when I'm outside the house, but I just live in my house with the windows closed and shades pulled until I have to actually leave the house to go train. So I'm pretty much a homebody. So yeah.
Okay. Question 8. What's the craziest or the funniest story that ever happened between you and a BKB fan?
Man, a fan. Try to think. Obviously, it'd probably be more Europe. Europe. We lost a guy, Dave, and he was an original BKB guy, and not a fighter, a fan, a very wealthy, well-to-do guy over there, and he used to call me the Detroit Tornado. So there's a couple fights in there. You can clearly hear him in the background, in that accent that they have, going, "Let's go Detroit Tornado." Like, and even though my name's the Hammer, he'd always call me the Tornado because over there it's 2 minute rounds. So it's just like BKFC. Like, you don't have to have conditioning. BYB, you got to play conditioning. It's boxing. It's 3 minute rounds. 2 minutes is not a conditioning. It's a sprint. So, and you got to get out there and go. So I would, obviously explode when I was there. And he'd always pull me aside, offer me to go to his house, which is pretty much like a old school castle, and wild things happen there. And, obviously I turned it down because that's not my speed, but he was always a good guy. And he always called me the Detroit Tornado.
Okay. Question 9. If you could meet any infamous person from history, who would you want to meet?
Man. You got me there. I don't know. Like, obviously, big fan of Foreman, but I know Foreman, and he's obviously not passed.
No, infamous person. So like,
Oh, you mean like go ahead.
Yeah, like a criminal type from the past.
Gotcha. My bad. Probably to be honest with you, John Gotti. Someone on those lines.
Okay. Question 10. If you could bring back someone that is deceased for 1 week, who would you bring back to life?
My grandma.
Okay. Question 11. If you got into a street fight with 3 guys, what other 2 bare knuckle boxers would you choose to be on your side to fight with?
The 2 bare knuckle fighters would probably be probably, I would say, Lorenzo Hunt, because that's my boy and he's nuts, and probably Julian Lane. Those 2 are by far go outside the realm of just boxing.
Okay. Question 12. If you could gift one person $1 million, who would you gift it to?
My son.
Okay. Question 13. Can you tell me an interesting story out of your entire boxing career so far?
Out of the boxing, like, so out of bare knuckle.
Well, no, out of your bare knuckle boxing career, or your MMA, your overall combat sports career.
Oh, man. Probably the craziest thing was when I fought in Europe, and my boy Julian Lane was going to fight Jimmy Sweeney. Jimmy Sweeney is known as like the king of bare knuckle, and he's got, I think 60 fights, like recorded fights, not just saying they have it, like actually videoed real fights. And we were over there, and we got there, I think 4 days early, and it was just a whirlwind of wild, because in the UK, they don't have guns, they don't do all that, but they do bats and knives and stuff like that. And at the time, Jimmy Sweeney and Julian Lane, they just despised one another. And obviously, I was Team America. It was only my second fight or third fight over there. And so obviously, I'm with the Americans. I brought big Wes Sims with me. So Wes is 6'7". He's a big, intimidating force over there, because most of the European people are small. And we're some other, Melvin Dillard's with us. And I apologize. If I say Julian, Melvin Dillard. Julian's with us. It's Melvin Dillard that fought Sweeney. So anyway, sorry. And we went to a restaurant to go eat. And I don't know if you've ever been to UK or Europe. It's just different. It's not America. It's a different style of, like, the portions are smaller. It's just a different vibe. And we went in as the American team, and there was probably, I think there's like 12 of us. And obviously we're not in our hometown, so they're in their home country. And then Jimmy comes in. Now, mind you, Jimmy and I are really good friends to this day. Sweeney's a really good guy, but it's fight week, so it's a bunch of like Welshmen and Irishmen that come in. They're part of Team Sweeney, and they're nuts. And to be honest with you, the Welsh are like, you just don't fuck. I don't care what anybody says. You don't fuck with Welshmen. Welshmen, one, you can barely understand them, and two, they're fucking crazy. So they come in, and we're all gabbing our seats, and they're coming right behind us, so we're not settled yet. And one word says this, another goes off. Next thing you know, Melvin's grabbing utensils and putting them in behind his hand if they come to get them, because there's more of them than there is us. I don't even know how many it was. It was just a lot. And so you got people grabbing utensils to protect themselves. They're coming in. They're grabbing shit to come attack us. I mean, nothing ever happened. I mean, we were able to clear out there, get us out of the restaurant first. But it was probably the most intense, wild thing. And it was on ESPN. It was all over the place for a little bit of Melvin Gillard and Sweeney, like literally about to come to blows, but it was like a UK style come to blows where guys were grabbing utensils for weapons and stuff. It was pretty wild. It was a wild time.
Oh, wow, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
Question 14. Who was the hardest puncher you've ever faced in the ring, in a fight, or sparring?
So it had always been Eric Prindle, up to my last. I never had a professional boxing match. I never actually put gloves on. I went right to the bare knuckle, and I recently took a fight with Dylan Kleckler, and they call him DC. And now a lot of people don't know that with a bare fist you can't hit as hard because you don't wrap it, you don't have it cast in that glove. That glove is to protect you, the thrower, not the person you're hitting. And I do not like DC. DC doesn't like me. We don't care for one another. But I can tell you, they stopped. I got stopped in the first round, and it wasn't the first shot that got me. Well, the first shot that hit me was probably the hardest I've ever been hit in my life. Like, I got hit and literally went to go to a knee because I know not to stand up. Clear your head. And I tried to go to my knee, and all I could focus on was looking at my ankle, and my ankle was like rolled over. My foot wouldn't sit flat. It was like this. And I kept thinking, like, if the ref sees that, he's gonna stop the fight. So I was using my gloves to try to make my foot go straight. And lo and behold, hey, I made the 8 count, got up, and we started. I don't know any other way but to go forward. So I go right back into the fire. And I'm thinking, like, man, this is not smart. Let me take a knee. Let me clear my head a little more. I've already lost a round. I'm not worried about it. It's one of us is going to knock the other one out. So I go to take a knee, and I go to reach for the rope. And as I go to take a knee, and Kleckler was on me. Dylan was on me like white on rice, and he's swinging, and he clips like the back of my head as I go to take a knee. So I'm not protecting myself. It's my fault. But I go to take a knee to grab it, and as he swings, it's kind of a push, and my hand goes past the rope. Long story short, the ref's like, "Oh, it's over. And I look at the ref. I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm literally like, you're trained as a fighter to take a knee if you're hurt to clear so you can continue, to clear your head so you can continue." And I immediately pop up. I'm like, "Oh, what the fuck, man? Like, I'm fine." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry. I thought you were hurt." I'm like you should have stopped the fight after the first knockdown. To be fair, that first knockdown had me on fucking Pluto, but I got up from it and cleared my head. It just wasn't clear enough. So I'm like, I've lost the round regardless. Who cares if it's a 10-7 round? I don't really care. Not a big deal. It's not going to go the distance. And that was probably the wildest experience. And to be honest with you, Dylan's known for being a power puncher. And I've always wanted to fight him bare knuckle. He got injured. We couldn't fight bare knuckle. And we had to do glove. Now, glove was clearly in both of our favors as we could cast our hands. Like, people don't realize boxing is literally, you cast your fucking hands. You cast the hand and put a little glove on it. It's not for your opponent's protection. It's for your hands. So you can freaking go nuts. So, and after that happened, I was just like, man, now granted I'm 45, so I'm not as young and sprite as I used to be, but I was like, man, like, that's pretty wild because I've seen, like, I love boxing, and I'm watching guys like Fury and those guys cracking people. And I know guys that train with Deontay, and he's like, man, with 16-ounce gloves, this dude hits fucking hard, And I can only imagine not having headgear, having 10-ounce gloves, having a cast. And that's my hand did not fit in the glove, which I'm assuming Dylan's didn't fit either. So they had to open the glove completely up, put our hands in it, and wrap the glove around our hands. My fingers didn't even go to the tip where you curl the glove over. It was like there's a little pad. My tips of the finger were right on the pad. So my hands were like this because they didn't fit in the damn gloves. And we literally thought we were just like, and my boxing coach, he's been my boxing coach for the last like 15 years. He was just like, you got to hit him. You got to hit whoever's going to hit who first. And I walked right out there, took like 4 or 5 of his shots like they weren't anything. Because usually I'm like, yeah, punches don't affect me. Man, he did a nice little side step, but like a pivot, and a tube that I didn't even see. And that was the shot that put me on my tail. And I was like, and I remember thinking that was probably the hardest I've ever been hit. Because obviously I didn't go out, but I felt like I probably should have went out.
Okay. All right. Question 15. What's something that you are absolutely afraid of?
Heights. Scared to the fucking death of heights.
Okay. I just figured a guy your size, man, I had to ask that question because there had to be something.
Yeah, my buddy Leroy is one of my best friends, and he took me to a Detroit Tigers game, and I don't think he really didn't believe me. And he has season tickets, and they're right on the second level, like right by the edge where they have glass. There's like this thick pan of glass that you look down. I couldn't sit. I like broke out in a sweat. I couldn't like every time he'd lean forward to grab his drink, it freaked me out. I have to grab him like stop. Like so. Long story short, I ended up having to go to the restaurant and watch the game from there because I couldn't handle being on that ledge.
Okay, question 16. What's the best dish you can cook?
Oh man, I don't know if that's a question for me. I guess it's the people that ate it. Man, I love. I do well at making like Johnny Marzetti as a feel good like filler. Chili, I'd say chili and Johnny Marzetti are the two best.
Okay, question 17. What's something that you're very passionate about besides bare knuckle boxing?
Man, college football is like a damn religion in my house. Like Saturday is for college football, and I obviously had scholarships to play college football, so maybe there might be more of a tie there because of that. But I just love college football, so I would say that's definitely a passion.
Okay, question 18. If you could have a conversation with any animal and it could talk back, what animal would you want to talk to?
Well, I've always liked otters. Don't ask me. That's probably a weird fucking answer, but I like otters, so I guess an otter would be cool.
Okay. No, it's actually, I understand it, man, because otters are pretty cool if you watch them.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, question 19. If you could go back in time to tell your younger self some advice, what age would you go back to and what would you tell yourself?
That's a tricky one as far as giving yourself advice because, as far as timelines and things that we know of today or that we watch on television, any little thing that I would do would probably askew where I'm at today. So if I didn't have anything, if I didn't have the kids, didn't have the life that I had now, and I just wanted to change it, sure, let's go back to 18 and put myself on a different path. Make sure I focus on certain things. But as an adult, where I'm at now, I would just probably go back about like 10 years and just make sure that I didn't do business with certain individuals where I had bad outcomes, where I was penalized for other people's actions.
Okay. Question 20. What advice would you give someone that would want to become a bare knuckle boxer?
Simple. Bare knuckle is, first of all, you got to train, you got to be committed, and consistency is the biggest thing. But like I said in our earlier conversation, bare knuckle is a different beast of its own. It's not. Chop Corley came over to bare knuckle. He couldn't hack it. He's a tough son of a gun. I got a lot of respect for him. It's a whole different world. It's a different world where you don't know if you have it or not. So the guys are getting in there doing it. They have heart. And guys that succeed, just getting in there, yeah, you give guys credit for just getting in there, but I'm not a big fan of that statement where people are like, oh, I respect anyone that steps in the ring. Nah, fuck that. Because you know what? Guys jump in rings all the time that aren't prepared, don't care, and they're there for a paycheck. The guys that I respect are the ones that come back more than a few times. And because bare knuckle, I'm telling you right now, my last fight, like first round, I got jabbed. I was relaxed and got jabbed right in the mouth, and my bottom tooth went right through my lip, and I had to in the half, like in between the rounds, I had to pull my lip and pop it off because it went right through. And it's not, it sounds gross, but it's not a big deal. But if you talk about that to other people, they're like, oh, you're fucking crazy. Or like when I fought Mick Terrell for the world title in the UK, my nose got ripped and it was just flapping. My nostril was just flapping. And I actually turned it up and fought harder after that. So those are the kind of stories that I would give people and say, listen, it's just got to be something you want. It can't be about the money. It can't be about, the fame. It's got to be a passion. If you have a passion for it and you have the heart, that's definitely something I would suggest that you pursue. But bare knuckle is a whole different world. It's not even like MMA. So, you got to get in there and find out.
All right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking time to come on and do the 20 random questions. If there's anything you want to say to your fans or sponsors or anything, go ahead.
No, I'm good, man. I just appreciate you bringing me on. And, like I said, I fight January, probably the second week of January for BYB. Check it out. And hopefully we have another knockout of the night.
All right. And hold on. And with that, the truth has spoken.